ACT test prep English section. So, you should have watched 2 YouTube videos. Just a quick reminder, one YouTube video talked about the rule less is more. So when in doubt on the ACT English section, pick the shortest answer. The other video talked about these 4 rules, which I will keep on referring to as lists, adjectives, compound sentences, and then phrases. We will learn about these 3 probably this quarter in the grammar section, and then this one definitely second quarter. Okay, now let's work through some of these questions. And on the ACT, it's best just to do as many as you can and also get as much explanation as you can. So that is what I'm providing you today. So first, we have, I'm just going to read it and work through these questions. You may stop this video whenever you want and move on. You may speed it up. This video you can use how you want. When storyteller Mary Carter Smith practices her art and everybody listens. So when signals to me the beginning of a dependent clause. And then that means it needs to be followed by a comma. When storyteller Mary Carter Smith practices her art, comma, then I don't need a conjunction. Everybody listens. So that's B. Wearing a brightly colored African dress, a large turban, and bracelets, notice that's a list. This, a dependent clause, falls under the phrases rule, right there. Okay. The 78-year-old Smith seems to inhabit each of the different characters she describes. Her voice changes with each emotion she wants to evoke. Her gestures fit the pace of the narrative. And though many of the stories are intended to make the audience laugh, Smith is fully aware of the other values of storytelling. Indeed, she identifies strongly with the griots of West Africa, those village storytellers where they use songs, poems, and narration to help preserve and transmit culture and history. So indeed says no change, meaning leave it the same. Well, however, I like no change. Those village storytellers where they use songs, poems, and who use. So no change where they know who use. So that it has to do with a pronoun relationship, but you should just be able to hear it. We will deal with pronouns and more of that third quarter. Clearly, others recognize her as a valuable resource. Smith is the official griot of both the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. She has served as griot in residence. Okay, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? So pay attention to the nots. Make sure you pay attention to that. That's where I make the most mistakes. State of Maryland. Okay. So this semicolon can be used as part of a compound sentence. So this works. That works. Maryland and has served. That also works. This does not work. This would be called a comma splice. When you have 2 sentences that could, or 2 phrases, independent clauses that could stand by themselves, combined by a single comma and nothing else. The writer is considering deleting the phrase "at several universities" from sentence 8. If the phrase were deleted, the essay would primarily lose. Let's see. She's a griot in residence at several universities. Doesn't really connect to the next paragraph. A contrast for the purpose of making a comparison? No, there's no comparison. Information that qualifies the term griot in residence? Very true, because we need to know where she's in residence at. An unnecessary detail. I think C, because she is a griot in residence. We need to know where. 36. Which of the following words or phrases from the preceding sentence is least necessary and could therefore be deleted? So let's read the sentence. Though Smith has been interested in theater since her youth, her recognition of her own talent grew gradually. She worked for 30 years as a teacher and librarian in the field of education in Baltimore public schools. So least necessary. 30 years? She worked as a teacher and librarian. Oh, I think field of education, because teacher and librarian already refer to that. 37. Okay, she organized theater groups in her community and took several trips to Africa to study traditional cultures. All along, she was telling stories, everything from social satire to her retelling of Cinderella as Cindy Ellie, a poor African-American girl whose rags are transformed into magnificent African-style gowns. So, Cindy Ellie, period. No, because whose rags are transformed, this is not a complete sentence by itself. I think it's no change, because this whole part, a poor African-American girl whose rags are transformed into magnificent African-style gowns, it doesn't make sense by itself. So, therefore, we don't need a compound, we don't need a conjunction, we don't need a semicolon. It will just connect with a comma. And that has to do with being a phrase, specifically an adjective phrase. But we will deal with that later. 38. At this point, the writer is considering adding the following sentence. In high school, Smith was a member of both the drama and speech clubs. So over here it ends. Over time, she was invited to perform in churches, libraries, and museums. I don't like that sentence because it goes back in time. So let's see. No, because it contradicts the point made earlier that Smith worked for 30 years as a teacher and librarian. No, because it distracts the reader from the main focus of the paragraph and does not logically fit at this point in the essay. Agreed. That one. 39. Smith realized the extent of her gift when her friend Alex Haley, who had gathered essential material critical to writing his best-selling novel Roots from a Griot in Gambia, began to refer to her as My American Griot. This was a revelation to Smith. Okay. No change. When her friend Alex Haley. So this has to do with, there is a rule that if you're going to, an adjective phrase rule, that if you're going to use a phrase to describe a noun, you need to surround it completely in commas. I call it the suitcase clause. So, this one, if you have a comma here, you need a comma there. So that doesn't work. You do not need a semicolon. Semicolons are only to separate two independent clauses. Same rule as here. If you have a comma here, you need a comma there. So therefore, it's A. So if you don't have any commas, then you don't use commas, and it's no longer a suitcase clause. So yes, that is a fact. She does not need commas here. How do you tell whether or not you should put commas around a word or not? Has to do with whether or not you think it's relevant. So she thinks Alex Haley is super relevant to the fact that it's her friend. So therefore you don't need commas. It's really up to the author. Okay, critical to writing. 40, gathered essential material 4. This goes back to less is more. 4 is the shortest one. 41, My American Griot. This was a revelation to Smith. This is a clause that can stand by itself as well as this. So therefore, we need that period. Let's see. You can work through the rest on your own. The answer sheet is connected to that assignment in Canvas. If you did watch all of this, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. And it's okay if you didn't understand all the grammar concepts. That is what the grammar badge is for, and we will be going through grammar a lot more as well this quarter and next quarter. But thanks. Bye.